So you just bought Dogma 2 and you're watching this beautiful cinematic. It looks really nicely and runs smoothly at 120 or more FPS. And then hello prison, 20 FPS maximum. Tons of stuttering and basically unplayable experience even in this part. And then in the open world it even worse. I got these problems, but I managed to fix them and got nice and stable FPS and pretty reasonable image quality. Because all guides I watched online got similar thing. Everyone got nice PC that costs more than 2K probably. And that's my settings, so pretty old and not really high-end PC. So let's try to optimize Dogma 2. My benchmark shows around 28 FPS when looking on the running water, or around 30 when looking far away. So let's change a few settings. First of all, I'm changing my display mode to full screen and variable frame rate to 60 FPS. While I can't get 60 right now, if I manage to squeeze out the 60 FPS, then I can upscale image later. And now let's test our upscalers in the game. First of all, I make sure I don't have any vertical synchronization, and dynamic resolution is not the thing I'm a fan of. It may help, but I will use it as the last knob. After all optimization, turn on low latency, and we got two different upscalers, DLSS and Fidelity. DLSS will be available only if you got NVIDIA GPU, and let's find out how it will look on quality settings. There is no difference on my FPS whatsoever. Also, I don't like quality, so I decided to change sharpness. This should make image more sharper and therefore it will look better. FPS got a little bit lower, but image is of course better. So this upscalers definitely helps, but not a lot, and we need to work on other settings. After turning off all upscalers, I decided to test out rendering mode. Rendering mode progressive with lowest image quality. That's how the game looks like. And it looks awful, but my FPS got 10% higher. And if I try to make this maximum quality with progressive rendering mode, it will look actually pretty decent. But I'm losing around 40% FPS. So keeping this knob in the middle gives nice quality with reasonable FPS. That's a nice starting point, and now let's adjust graphic settings. Well, there's a lot of knobs and you can kinda see directly what they will affect, how much they affect your graphics memory and processor, and how they affect the game. Still, we need to test this out. So let's find out maximum we can squeeze by turning everything off first. And that's maximum FPS we can get with this awful graphics. It's even worse than Minecraft. I mean, in Minecraft it's a little bit stylish at least, and this is just like drag and dog shit. But now, after turning on upscaler, while getting same low FPS, image quality is not that awful. A little bit of stuttering of shadows on the trees, but overall, I mean, it's not very awful. And if we turn away from water of a lot of moving objects, actually I'm getting around like 50 to 55 FPS, which is pretty reasonable. And it's 10% lower with upscaler off. So let's test out our features and how they affect our FPS. Ambient occlusion. They affects how shadows look in the game, and I guess it's really important feature, but with highest quality ambient occlusion, already around 10% FPS dropped. Next knob should remove this flickering of leaves on the trees. So I'm getting lower preset for ambient occlusion and turning on anti-aliasing. There's different presets which affects differently your processor load, but I will use maximum quality, FXAA plus TAA. So just by turning on these two settings, the game is already a lot better, and FPS is almost unaffected. Using only TAA against FXA plus TAA is also an option. Now let's turn on reflections and see how they affect the game. On the image it looks like pretty big change. But in the game itself I don't see a lot of difference. Mesh quality should affect textures on your characters and other models. And also it's a lot of FPS. While definitely not affecting a lot of image quality. Another big change we can make is to change our texture quality itself. So high 3GB will eat from 10 to 20% of your FPS easily. And kinda same goes for shadow quality. If you go with maximum shadow quality, yeah, you're kinda getting a little bit better shadows. But FPS drops by another 10%. Other settings is kinda more stylistic approach. They won't affect a lot of CPU or GPU memory, so they won't affect FPS too much. Only subsurface scattering will affect a lot of your CPU, GPU and therefore FPS. So in the end I got around 45 FPS in pretty busy area with a lot of grass. Around 60 FPS normally outside of the town. It's looking like pretty good. But I want to squeeze out a little bit more and get my FPS even higher to more fluid and more nice image. One more option you can use, it's lossless scaling app on Steam. And while I can't show you exactly how it looks on the screen, I will probably record it on mobile so you can see a little bit, but it creates some artifacts in action games like this. Still, image is pretty okay-ish, I would say, and after some time we can get used to it, but it basically doubles my FPS. So right now I'm getting about like 34 and my output is around like 70 FPS. And if you want to set up this awesome software, you're basically doing no scaling at all with full screen aspect ratio. You're turning off scaling if you don't need any scaling. And make sure you got frame generation on with the XGI capture mode. But you need to make sure your graphics over here is on borderless windowed mode. That's it. So basically I'm getting around like 110 FPS if it's scaled down, and it's not looking too bad. You know, it's kind of fine, so you can play with it a little bit. Also another micro fix that gave me like around 5 FPS, so big amount when you're getting around 30 FPS, is going to Task Manager. So it's right click on Windows on Start and then Task Manager. You will get this window over here, and you want to go to the right side to Details. On Details, you will find DD2XC, so you just right click it, set priority, and press it to high. Don't go with real time, it will crash your PC. It will normally be on normal. You can experiment with giving it above normal, or just high is more than enough. So this fix alone gave me around 5 to 6 FPS in town, which is like 20%. So that's really reasonable fix. And this FPS is pretty stable. So that's the settings. In the end, I decided to turn on dynamic resolution. I still don't like VSync, but it just feels a little bit better when it's turned on for some reason. And I guess it's fine for single player game. And I don't like this native DLSS, because even on quality, even like on one of the highest settings, almost highest settings, it's still like, I will say, not sharp enough. It's really blurry image and not looking like too good. So just by using progressive rendering mode on something like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 settings, like somewhere over here, I'm getting same FPS, but image is a lot more clearer and game overall looking a lot better. And just lower it by 1 if you would need extra like 5 FPS. And then we're going here, ambient occlusion is SSAO, anti-aliasing is TAA, no screen reflections, it's 18 FPS anyway, mesh quality low. I switched to texture filtering to lower quality filtering, medium to linear is enough. Texture quality, it could be medium 0.5 GB or it can be high. It uses same graphics memory, a little bit more processor load, so you need to test this out by yourself. But I can see really a lot of difference between high and medium 0.5 GB. It's basically the same, at least in my eyes. And then you can just copy these settings, so low, 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 on shader cache, no contact shadows, and you know, this effect's not eating a lot of FPS, but they adding a little bit of stylish stuff to the game, so I turned them on, and the game just looks a little bit better than bad mess I got before. Lens distortion, I can't find any way how this like affects the game, so you can leave this on probably. And no subsurface scattering, of course, and also no motion quality low. That's final settings. The game looks really amazing, even on pretty low end CPU. But also, if you will like to try out lossless scaling, that's my settings. I'm using scale factor of 1.4, maybe 1.2 will be enough. Always resize before scaling. Sharpness should be around 8, and scaling type AMD FSR. Then frame generation is LSFG, and capture API is DXGI. That's full settings, and if you're playing with mouse, I think it's like not really cool, but this works if you're playing on PC with controller. I'm getting pretty much like double frames with frame generation, so it's around 70-80 in a town, but also you can just turn off this frame generation and just use a little bit of scaling with sharpness at 8. This won't generate a lot of frames, but you will get around like 20% more FPS. And a lot more when you're going out of the town. And also don't forget, I'm recording at the same time, so yeah, without recording is a lot better. And don't forget to recruit Shadowheart. She's my main pawn, so get her as your pawn and probably enjoy her company on your playthrough. I hope this video really helped someone. Make sure to subscribe and see you in the next videos, guys.